Well, thanks for coming this morning. I'm Scott Houghton. This is my buddy Jody Smith.
Hi guys.
You've probably seen him on America's Most Wanted in the post office. He makes it around. He's a darn good turkey guy too. So we've done quite a bit of turkey stuff over the years together. Done a lot of TV shows and that. We've been in a lot of magazines stuff together over the years too. So what we're going to do is just over the next hour or so here, just take probably split it up, go for a half hour on turkey hunting, and then we're going to go on the spring bear tactics from there. So I might fall asleep. I've been up doing radio interviews since about 5:30 this morning, so all over the west here. So if I start blubbering, just listen to Jody.
You're already blubbering.
So we're going to start with the turkey, and I think just to start in here, half hour is not a whole heck of a lot of time to talk about them, but we'll go through. If you have any questions as we go along, just holler. We're both deaf anyway, so just start throwing stuff at it. So I think what we'll do is kind of look at turkey behavior this time of year, what's going on. Then we'll look at some calling and you know, some approaches that we use, decoy use, the sounds we're making and why, and then get into some of the gear we're using and why. Turkey is one of those fun sports because there's a lot of gear and gadgets that you can get into it. You know, involve it if you want to. You don't have to, but it's one of those things that are they're fun. And birds, turkeys in Oregon is probably the greatest hunting conservation success story in the whole entire country. I mean, they're phenomenal. I remember the first time my dad and I went on. Gosh, I was in junior high, 7th grader, and you had to go. It was a drawing back then. So if you got drawn for the tag, you got to go. And now we're allowed 3 birds a year in the spring and 1 in the fall. So now you can kill 4 birds throughout the state of Oregon in select units in the spring. So we're pretty fortunate. The area where Jody lives, that kind of triangle between Elkton, Roseburg, the Drain area, I-5, even up into this area now is touted to be the best turkey country this side of the Mississippi. So there's a ton of birds there. And they're great to call. They're a lot of fun to hunt. These birds are very cooperative, and they're doing really well. You look about, you know, you look at turkey population, and people say, "Is this going to be a good year?" Really, what bases a good hunting season from a bad one is the previous spring during the nesting season. A lot of times you might see, in fact, I can guarantee you're going to see birds popping up, little birds that are going to be born here probably the next week or two. Very early this year. In fact, it was you that called me. I was somewhere back east of the summer, or the end of February, and Jody said, guess what I just saw? I said, a turkey? He said, yeah, but they were mating. That was the end of February. They were breeding already. At the same time, a lot of this cold weather that we've had has kind of made some of the birds go, some of the toms stick in their bachelor groups. So I think it's going to be kind of a spread out turkey breeding season. Now, one thing to keep in mind, turkeys don't have double clutches or 2 or 3 clutches like a lot of people think. If you see a young brood right now and that mom can raise them successfully, that's the only brood she'll have. If that brood is lost early, then she'll go back and she'll re-nest, or she'll breed again around whatever. It might be May or June. If she loses those again, she might breed again in September, which it would explain when you're out here in Elkton, you see little poults this big running around. You say, wow, this is great, it's going to be a good year. She had 3 broods this year. That's not it. The reason they've had that many, or it seems that they've had that many broods is they're so small, is because they've lost their clutch, either to rain, cold weather, or predators, or disease, which happens a lot. So a little bit on their behavior. What kind of vocalizations are they making this time of year?
Right now the hens are pretty quiet, and I don't know, it varies from year to year. The one different thing about the turkey world that people don't really know is when the tom gets up there and strut it all out and gobbling, in the turkey world the hens come to the tom, unlike elk. The elk, the cows will call, and the bull will go to the elk, to the cow. So right now there's a little bit of gobbling. Where I hunt, they're all in bachelor groups right now, the toms are. We've got a group of 7 on one ranch, a group of 5, which is kind of odd for this time of year, because they've been nesting for almost a month already. There's just a little bit of gobbling, and that's what makes it tough for the scouting right now, because you know, they're vocal in the morning, first thing off the tree in the mornings early, and then they're pretty quiet for the rest of the day because the hens are already nesting. So to go scouting right now is a little bit difficult because you can't just drive around and listen for turkeys, so it's best to use glasses and just scout with glasses. You want to get into the calling?
Sure. Let's get right into it.
Okay.
One thing that Jody mentioned is they're in the trees right now. You know, you can hear them roosting. That's one good way to go out and try to locate where these birds are at. Another good way to locate where birds are at, just with a call. Slamming the car door a lot of times elicits a gobble. It's just shot gobbling, just a reaction. You know, getting out there, you know, hollering. You know, just any loud, you know, kind of, you know, just any high-pitched sound. Doesn't have to be any animal in particular. A coyote howler is one of my favorite. People say, you know, I don't like using coyote calls because they, you know, can scare the turkey. They think there's a predator in the area. They're not that smart. You know, they're going to react to that sound. I like a turkey call on the western side of the hills because it's a real high-pitched sound that can penetrate a lot of wet forest, which we get a lot of. So locating them, I try to locate them, you know, we try to locate them when they're in the trees so you know where to go set up. But when they're in the trees, you hear them a lot of times talking before they even fly out. What are they saying?
Yeah. They'll do a long series of a yelp, a hen will before they fly down. The toms will gobble like crazy about 10 to 15 minutes before they fly down. And most, I would say 90+% of the time, where they leave the roost trees, they will fly downhill. They may fly downhill and land and they'll gobble and stay in a little tiny flock for a while, and they might work uphill a mile to where they're going to feed and their strutting zones and all that. But almost all the time they will fly downhill or to level ground. I can't think of a time where I've seen them leave the roost and fly uphill. So if you do find the roost tree, don't crowd up to it and get real close and mess it up, because they will leave roost trees. Not very often. It takes quite a bit of pressure to move them from where they've been roosting, because a lot of places I've been hunting for 15, 20 years and they're still in the same trees. So once they get something established, if you get that established and don't bump them out of there, they will stay in there. On TV and a lot of magazines, you talk about getting one right off the roost. That is just awesome when it works. I mean, you set up, they fly down, he answers, he comes to the decoys, bam, the hunt's over. That happens about 3% of the time. So don't get frustrated if the first thing in the morning and nothing works. On all my turkey hunts, we probably kill more turkeys between 10 and 2 than we do any other time of the day. A couple reasons for that is, one, first thing in the morning, they're pretty alert. You've got a lot of eyeballs because usually the toms will fly down with the hens, and they're just kind of regrouping and getting in their areas before they go out either to nest where the hens are or go up to where they've been strutting all day or where they've been feeding. Later on in the afternoon, the hens might move off and go in their nest, so Tom's going back and forth hunting for another hen to feed. So a lot of times they're very susceptible to the call during that time of day. It's usually better weather, and it's not foggy. Down where we hunt it, we have quite a moisture problem in Western Oregon. I know that probably shocks a lot of you, but it's true. So a lot of times they're in the shorter grass. They don't like the taller grass. That's why they walk old skid roads and logging trails and fence lines. A lot of it is just because they don't like the tall grass on them. So if you can find some place, it's always nice to try it out of the roost, and when it works, it's fun because you still get home from Monday Night Football or whatever you're going to watch, late brunch. But if it doesn't work, don't be afraid to go back, circle around. You don't have to worry about the wind or scent with the turkey. Thank goodness that we've never killed one. Their eyesight is incredible and their hearing is very well, but if it's not voices talking, it seems like walking through the woods or the breaking of the brush is not going to spook them. They're going to know you're there, they might be looking that direction, but if they can't see you, they're not going to take off and run. So if you can work around and get up in front of them and set up, a lot of times that's your best chance. Patience. I'm not very good at it. I get very bored sitting for over 3 or 4 minutes. So
we make a good team.
Yeah, I can't, and that's the #1 fault I have. Yeah. #1, earlier on I called too much, and #2 is I didn't wait long enough. I don't know how many times I've got out and left, and there he is just coming in, and I bumped him. Just sit there. I've been fortunate enough to take a lot of people from all over the world turkey hunting, or the United States at least. Most of them know much more about turkey hunting than I do. I'm kind of self-taught. I've never been anywhere else to turkey hunt. I've seen about 500 of them die over the guiding years, but it's kind of all self-taught, and experience is how I do it. These guys, I've learned a lot from my clients. I had a boy from Kentucky, an older guy that killed birds in like 18 states, I think. And we went up and sat down, and he wanted to do the call. And I thought, well, that's great, you know, I might learn something. And he had a lot of different calls that I hadn't been familiar with before. And he sat down and grabbed his old box call after the turkey started gobbling in the morning first thing, and he went, whoop, 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 whoop. Turkey gobbled.